Okay. The first question is, welcome to the, oh, sorry, you, you an author, speaker, educator, message, the Aspire, Doula, and Genius World Record holder. Which title describe you best and why?
That's a hard one. I think educator is probably the title that would probably, or teacher or educator, is probably the title that encompasses all of what I do.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
Everything that I do is education based. It's let's look at the
Mm,
science, let's look at the data, let's look at the
mm,
evidence and move forward from there. So everything that I do is trying to impart as much wisdom as someone is willing to soak up.
mm. Okay. Um, what was your dream when you were 14 years old?
To be an author, that was something I really wanted to do. I was particularly at that age, that was how I got through all of
Mm,
the deep sorrow, the deep
mm,
pain of being a kid.
mm,
There's so much that happens to us as kids that adults minimize,
mm,
honestly. And I have to think
mm,
of that perspective constantly as a mom now. Is
mm,
my toddler having a meltdown, acting like it's
mm,
the end of the world that I'm not giving them a piece of candy. Well, to them,
mm,
it really is. To them, their world is so small that not having something that they want does feel like a tragic travesty
mm,
that needs to be rectified. So I think that allowing myself the grace of having difficulty in that season of life and then being able to write out what I was experiencing, what I was feeling, and then the ability to analyze what I saw on paper versus what I was feeling
mm.
and find, okay, what's emotion and what's truth, because those are not the same things. So, yeah, I just wanted to write. I wanted to use my words to make
Mm.
something beautiful that impacted other people.
Okay. If you could describe yourself just three words, what would they be? Your journey.
Faithful, passionate, and joyful.
Okay. The next question is, what inspired you to become an author?
Well, the difficulty that I experienced as a young kid, I went through some really, really hard stuff when I was very young, like elementary
Mm,
age. And that put me
mm,
in counseling for a couple of years to help me process through what I had gone through.
mm,
And I understood the power of feeling something that isn't reality. Um, you can feel shame when it's not yours. You can feel
mm,
um, anger, but anger is a secondary emotion. It's always something else driving the emotion if it's anger. And so the ability to dig
mm,
deeper was really helpful at a very, very young age. And so that reflected in my writing and in my youth. And so whether it was songs, my dad gave me a guitar for my 16th birthday, and I would write songs. That was how I sorted through a lot of things. Or I would write poetry. I would just write whatever I was feeling. I mean, I still have probably 10 notebooks from that time in my life that I never wanted to let go of what I had written, even though a lot of it was just poetically bad. um, it was my journey to get to where words made sense, and they could help me process my thoughts and my emotions. So really, I've wanted to be an author for a very, very long time, and now I am. It's pretty crazy to see my name on a book and know that I made that from nothing. The ability to create and make something special and beautiful happens with art and happens with words. And I wanted to be able to keep that connection. And so, yeah, writing has always been important to me. Words are such a beautiful way to express yourself outside of your actions that sometimes I think the words help us figure out why we have the actions that we have. So getting it out can be really cathartic, really therapeutic.
Which where is the question? Which of your books are you most proud of and why?
Well, I have two books. One of them is an anthology of 142 authors all coming together, submitting portions for this book. That's actually why I'm the Guinness World Record holder, is because that 142 authors came together in one room to
Mm,
simultaneously sign that book. And so I'm really proud of the fact that I have a Guinness World Record. I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to participate in that wonderful event. But honestly, I'm more proud of the song of my heartbeat, because that is completely my vision from start to finish. It's really a labor of
mm,
love of over 2 years, and took a lot of time and energy and effort. So
mm,
it really helped me understand the
mm,
process I want to go through for future children's books, and how that differs from
yeah.
more novel like books, or and I've got several people who have made it clear that they want me to write an autobiography type book of my life stories and lessons and things. So I've got
Mm,
a lot of things kind of coming down the pipeline, but they're, at least
yeah.
the autobiography will probably take a while.
Mm, yeah. Okay, my next question is, was there ever a time you wanted to give up? What kept you going, speaking and teaching?
Yeah. um
Mm,
I don't think there's ever been a time that I've wanted to give up. uh, I
oh.
think that there's been difficulties
Mm,
along the road, and it's more of like,
mm,
what is the right next step? And then I have an issue where personally I can get
mm,
indecisive with what the next step should be,
mm,
so concerned about what the right next step is, that I
mm,
I can kind of stay stuck waiting to take a
mm,
step towards the goal.
mm,
So that's something that I had a coach
mm,
recently kind of lovingly point that out to me, and I was like, oh, that's uncomfortable. I don't like how
mm,
true that is. So it's not like I've ever felt like, oh, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. It's more of,
mm,
this is what I'm supposed to do. God, help give me the
mm,
direction and the discernment with what
mm,
step I'm supposed to take. And sometimes I
mm,
forget that He just wants me to continue making progress, and He doesn't care that
mm,
it's not perfect. He
mm,
cares that it's honest. And so that's kind of my struggle at this particular point, is how do I
mm,
make sure I'm continuing to take baby steps to keep that momentum forward, as opposed to
mm,
focusing on what's the right next step, and then unintentionally getting
mm.
myself stuck.
Okay. Okay, my next question is, what do you enjoy most about speaking to people?
I love to see the connections. I love to see those aha
Mm,
moments where I'm explaining what I'm
mm,
feeling in their body, what they're describing in their body, and how those things are the same but
mm,
different. And having those people feel like, oh, I actually understand what you're saying, and the self
mm,
care stuff that you're showing me about how to do. This is the
mm,
motion that's difficult. How to do it in little increments, so it's like an ocean wave coming in one wave at a time for movement, or release of the tissue. As opposed
mm,
to, you don't want it happening all at once. I refer to that as a tsunami. And tsunamis can be quite destructive. You don't necessarily want that in
mm,
your body. You want one wave at a time, so that the benefit can happen slowly enough that you aren't knocked over and hurt by the change. So um,
mm.
yeah.
Okay, my next question is, what's inspired you to become a message therapist and a doula?
Yeah, as a massage therapist, my mom had a lot of physical ailments, a lot of physical pain when I was
Mm,
14, 15, 16 years old. And she would ask me to massage her feet, rub her back,
mm,
um, help her neck, whatever the case was with what was hurting her that day. And she really encouraged me that I was doing quite well, and I
mm,
was able to help her in a really substantial way. even without any education about what I was
Mm,
doing. And so she encouraged me that this is something you can really do and do well and help a lot of people. And that was really alluring. I liked the idea of helping people from a servant perspective. And
mm,
so that's how I became a massage therapist. I went to school, and it was a little over a year of schooling, 1,000-hour program. And then about 7 years after that, I was at my medical clinic that I was working at, and I just kind of had this moment where I realized I'm stagnant. I'm not growing as a professional, because the sessions that I'm doing, I'm working on majority of computer workers, and so they have the same physical ailments, they have the same physical problems as a desk worker, in slightly different ways. So I was basically doing the same massage every day, all day, and that just felt very stagnant for me, like I wasn't challenged by it anymore. And then I had my midwife reach out to me and ask if I could go do an in-home session for someone who was trying to relax enough that they could go into labor because of what was happening for her. She was close enough to labor that we really want to relax her so that she can have consistent contractions. I did an hour and a half session with her, and then within 2 hours of me leaving her house, she had already called the midwife to go to the birth
mm,
center. So, I mean, it was like once her body had relaxed, she would just birth that baby. And I realized, wow, that's a really fun thing. I just helped
mm,
someone in their birth process. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know I could do that, but now I do. That's cool. What do you mean? This is a whole job where I could walk through pregnancy with somebody and give the information that I've learned in a practical way. And so I started a course to
mm,
become a certified massage doula, as well as
mm,
prenatal massage certified. And so I kind of took that step all at once. And then
mm,
that's when I opened my own business. And that's when it used to be called Be Well Doula and Massage. But as I'm now an educator and author and speaker, about a
mm,
year, 2 years ago, I rebranded my company to Interwoven, because that's what
mm,
I believe we are. We are a body, spirit, and soul. And we are all three of those things, not just one. And I don't want someone to come in as a collection of symptoms and me only see their body. I don't want them to come in and me only see their emotion. I want to see, what is your physical body saying? What is your emotional state saying? And then how are you spiritually engaged or disconnected? And then is there a way that I can just be present with you long enough and well
mm.
enough that you can
Yeah,
kind of come more together and have those three things be not at odds with each other? And so I believe that we are an interwoven people, that we are all interwoven as body, spirit, and soul. And I want to see the whole person in front of me and not just one or two of those aspects of who they are, but really help be present and support the whole person.
yeah. Okay, my next question is, what's the most rewarding moment you experienced while helping someone?
The most rewarding. Um,
Mm,
I think there's several that come to mind, but they all have something in common. So it goes back to that interwoven person, right? I have I've had clients on my table that on paper we shouldn't get along at all. Like we're polar opposites in personality and politics and religion and all of these things, right?
yeah.
But when they're in my session, when they're in my room, I don't care about any of those things. 0%. I don't care about those things. I want to see you as a person. And so I've had I've had clients over the years that, as we're working in a place, it will bring a memory up that maybe they've repressed or they have avoided acknowledging, specifically around abusive things that they've experienced, very traumatic things that have happened for them. um, and watching that disconnect come back together to where they're able to process that traumatic experience from an emotional state, but then they're also processing it from a physical state from what I'm doing. And then to see that person get up off the table and look like they're emotionally lighter, like they have freedom in their person as a result of being able to let go of things in session. Anytime someone relives their traumatic experiences in detail, that's a very honoring position to be in. People don't just do that. They don't just tell you the worst things that have happened to them, especially not in a detailed way. And I've had that happen several times. I've had many people, as a result of just being present with them, feel safe enough to open up and not feel like I'm going to judge whatever
Mm,
has happened either to them or whatever they've done. And so
yeah.
those are some of the most rewarding experiences. It's not just what's happening in their physical body, it's when they feel more connected, body, spirit, and soul as one, all working together, instead of my body and soul are fine, but my spirit is completely disconnected from me. And so being able to help people um, connect with themselves in a way that maybe they're intentionally protecting from those memories or those experiences, and they feel safe enough with me
Mm,
to relive them so they can let them go. That's my most rewarding experience as a professional,
okay.
because not everyone gets to have that opportunity. It's a very
Mm.
honoring position to be in.
Guinness World Record. Congratulations on your Guinness World Record. What record did you achieve?
So we achieved the most number of authors simultaneously signing a book at the same time. So there's 142 of us that all put
Mm,
information into the book. And so we all sat down at tables, and the Guinness
yeah.
World Record people were there, and everybody signed the book one at a time. And and it was a really incredible experience. Um, I'm very honored to have been in the room with those people, and to have had the opportunity to connect with them and meet with them and be a part of this incredible experience together. And it's something no one can take away from me.
Mm, okay. My next question is, what was the hardest part of setting the record?
Actually, getting there, I actually had my first flight switched gates, and I went to the new gate, and nothing ever
Yeah.
happened. And then the plane, I don't know if I just got the wrong gate number or what happened, but the plane took off without me. And the event's tomorrow. What am I going to do? And so I had
Mm,
to make the decision. Well, do I call quits and just go home, or do I persevere through this difficulty and get another flight and deal with
yeah.
the chaos of this differently? And so I talked with my husband. I talked with my eldest brother, who did the Guinness World Record event with me. Actually, I did it with him. He's the one who invited me, and I made it on another flight. I was several hours later than I wanted to be, but I made it there. I could have easily. I wanted to just give up. I'll be totally honest. I was discouraged. I was just frumpy attitude. I was very sad. I thought, well, let's just give up and walk away from it. And my brother encouraged me. He says, you could, or you
Yeah.
could push past this difficulty and come do this fun thing with me. And I was like, well, when you say it like that, all right, let's make it happen. Let's do this. And so getting there was the hardest part for me. Yeah, it almost didn't happen for me. I almost gave up, and I almost didn't persevere through the difficulty. So it was a good little lesson for me. I felt like God was telling me, um, almost like a defect in my personality, but in a loving way of like, hey, do you know that you give up easy? And I was like, I don't feel like I do that. And he's like, you do sometimes. You don't always, but you do sometimes. And so it was an interesting moment for me to kind of do a little self evaluation of what are some other times where it's just easier to give up? And do I do the easier thing or do I do the right thing? So I was able to have some personal reflection on the flight and think through some of those things, and it was helpful. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, okay. My next question is, how did you celebrate after becoming a Guinness World Record holder?
Well, so we were in the room, and the Guinness World Record people had to do their tallying up, and they had to have their little official conversation. And then the guy came on the mic and said, well, the former Guinness World Record event is such and such. And today you guys have set the record at such and such. And as soon as he said that we had set the record, immediately everyone burst into joyful woos. And it was like immediately a party started. Um, that wasn't necessarily what they had planned. It just happened very organically. And we spent the rest of the day signing each other's books, getting cards from each other, connecting about, oh, your mission is on mission with my mission. Let's connect. And so it was just felt like a networking party where everybody was just completely joyful. There are videos on my Facebook, if you scroll back far enough, to show that moment of what it was like and how, I mean, it was completely spontaneous party that started. And after that, I came home and I started doing these with you guys and lots of students at the Rahan school. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the ways I celebrate is I have this cool accomplishment that opens
Mm.
doors to connect with people I wouldn't necessarily otherwise have the ability to, and to connect with people who can teach me things that I wouldn't know otherwise, and hopefully have a mutually beneficial relationship. So, um, opening doors and having that wonderful celebration experience was really, really cool. And my kids
Mm.
are just over the moon. Well, Mom, let's watch Guinness World Record things. And I wonder if you're going to be on YouTube because, they do the best of Guinness World Record things. And he's like, I wonder if you're going to be in the, 2026 one. And I don't know, but it's possible. But, I wouldn't hold my breath on it. I don't think that people want to see that in the same way that they want to see like a hot dog eater. I don't know. but uh, but yeah, it's exciting. My kids are proud of me, and there's something really cool about seeing their excitement over what I'm doing. That's just really fun.
Okay. Family and kindness. I saw that your 2 years oldest son donated their hair to wigs for kids. That was such a kind thing to do. How did that idea come about, and how proud did it make you feel?
With my boy's hair, yeah, that
Hmm.
that was really cool. So my oldest son, when he was young, we cut his hair really short, and he clearly didn't like it. It was like he kept trying to find his hair to play with, and so we let him grow it out. We have a friend who calls himself a pirate. He's a merchant marine. But he says that he went to pirate school. So um,
Hmm.
our son really connected with that friend, and Josh happens to have long hair like a pirate. That's what
Hmm.
he says. And so Zaya wanted to grow out his hair because he wanted to look like Josh. And then several years later, my other son said, um, well, I want to grow out my hair too. I don't want to cut it. And then it's been like this competition between them who can grow out their hair longest. I don't know. It was between them. I don't know exactly what the competition was, but it felt like a competition. But I was telling them that my second son, he's got kind of a curly hair, and it was just
Yeah.
horrible to try to brush through it and get all the tangles out. And I told him, I said, if you're not going to brush your hair, let's cut it all off. Let's donate it to somebody who needs hair. And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, well, my sister donated her hair when she was, younger, for people who needed a wig. And they're like, well, could we
Yeah.
do it for kids? So they were the ones who asked about the ability to donate their hair for kids. And so I did some research and found Wigs for Kids is the organization that we donated hair to. And in the same week, they both got their hair cut, and their hair was probably at least twice the length it was required to be, and almost three times for my oldest son. And so they're going to be able to give hair to kids
Hmm.
that have had a medical condition or cancer or whatever else has come up in their life where their hair has fallen out. And so there's something very special about kids donating their hair for other kids. That just felt
Yeah.
incredibly special. And we happened to be at church the following Sunday, and our pastor was, hey, those Stout kids, and they looking good. And I stopped and talked with him
Yeah.
briefly, and I said, this is what they did and why. And the lady who was also there talking to our pastor, she started to get tears in her eyes, and she got really, really emotional. And she says, one of my kids had cancer and had to have a wig. Thank you for raising boys who are willing to do that. And she was, I mean, she was crying. It was very emotional for her to overhear this situation. And just yesterday, I had somebody else come up to me and say, hey, I'm really proud of your boys for doing that. And so it's just been a wonderful opportunity for them to see the difference a single person can make in someone's
Yeah.
life. And then they wrote a little handwritten letter to the person that said, dear person, I'm sorry you're going through this. I hope that my hair can help, sending you prayers, or whatever it was. And they both had their own letter that
Hmm.
they wrote that was specific for them. And
Yeah.
that will be given to the person that gets their hair. And I just find that incredibly special. I'm very, very proud of them. And my oldest son even said, I want to do this over and over again. This is really cool. I like that I was able to do this. I said, then let's make it happen. Let's keep track of each time you donate your hair, and we can do that. So I'm over the moon with pride that they wanted to do it, and that they seem to be proud of themselves for doing it as well. So
Yeah. Okay, my next question is, what's one thing about you that most people would be surprised to know?
yeah, well, I'm a very joyful person. People like to call me Sunshine. That's what my one of my brother's college and high school girlfriends still to this day calls me Sunshine. And I think people would be surprised that just because I have joy doesn't mean I haven't had hardship. And I've had a lot of sorrow. I've had a lot of hardship. I've had a lot of pain in life, but I refuse to make that an excuse for being a miserable person. Um,
Yeah.
I won't let it keep me down, not because of my own strength, but I can count it all joy because the testing of my faith produces perseverance. If I'm going through something difficult, I have the opportunity to look at it and say, God, what are you trying to teach me? God, how can I utilize this moment for my own betterment, but for the betterment of who you want me to be? And so everything that I go through, that I've experienced, good or bad, I won't allow the emotion to determine my behavior. We all have emotions, we all have thoughts, we all have things we go through, but not every thought is mine. Sometimes I have to be able to isolate, this is what other people want me to believe about what is happening or how I'm feeling, and I refuse to stay stuck in that emotion just because other people think that's where I should be. So I can have that emotion, but that's not where I live. I live in joy because I choose to live in joy. That doesn't mean I'm
Hmm.
always joyful. It means that I'm always trying to find the opportunity to be grateful in every circumstance. And you can't have complaining and gratitude happen at the same time. It's literally the same neural pathway in our bodies. You cannot be complaining and have gratitude at the same time. So I choose gratitude over complaining. It's a choice. It's not
Yeah.
an easy choice, but it is a choice.
Okay. Closing. Finally, that what message would you like to share with young people around the world who dream of making a positive difference?
I would say be encouraged that you don't always get to see the benefit of the seeds you sow, or the water that you water seeds with. It's not your
Yeah.
responsibility what people do with the information that you give them, but you don't always know how much you impact someone.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, but just know that you impact people, either good or bad, just by presence. And hopefully, people can choose to be around people who bring them hope, who bring them joy, and not because they're trying to siphon that from them, but because it's contagious. You're not trying to take joy from someone else. You're just trying to say, hey, if you have an overflow, could I get some of that? So be careful who you put yourself around. You really are the sum of your closest friends. If you have a negative Nancy and and you're
Yeah.
around her a lot, you're going to become more negative. You're going to see complaining opportunities more than you see gratitude opportunities. So choose your friends not based on necessarily who you get along with the best, but who you want your life to look like and who's going to help you that you can also help. It should be a mutually beneficial friendship and relationship where you encourage one another and that you are vulnerable and honest with each other. That's where true intimacy lives, is the vulnerability. So find people that you can be vulnerable with, and if you can't be vulnerable with them, they're probably not your people.
Yeah. Okay, Jennifer, shout bye bye. See ya.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
Now, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet